From the heart of the Appalachian Hills, nestled in between an outhouse and a moonshine still, comes the twosome of unparalleled levels of cool. She loves her mountain magic and he's a folk-telling carny fool. Prepare to hear legends from Bigfoot to Loki as they try to decipher what in the actual hell is a Hokie. She's the black-veiled beauty and my goodness he's got a purty mouth. They've escaped a land of lobsters and returned to the haunted South. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your hosts, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by the birthday girl, Stacey.
Hello.
Hello, birthday girl.
Hello. I'm not always the birthday girl, but I am this time.
Yes, you are. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And congratulations on once again turning 29.
Yes. It's
amazing.
Quite a feat.
It is. It is quite a feat. But yeah, we thought it would be fun to do the birthday edition here, especially as a never a day like a day in October.
That's right.
A little October spell going on. And you got to keep up, guys. There are way too many references to old shows and old things that I've explained in the past. So anyway, this is going to be a great episode. I will start out by saying this much.
Yes.
So I may have left off some things in last week's episode.
Have you been scolded?
Maybe by 13 or 14 people have I been scolded for not including certain artists on my top 10 Halloween playlist.
Well, to be fair, 10's not that many spots.
It's not, but I should not have forgotten Alice Cooper.
This is probably true.
Yeah, Alice Cooper should not have been left off the list. Shame on me. Mm-hmm. Also, shame on me for leaving off Topo Negative, which is like the quintessential Halloween metal band.
You love them.
Yes.
Which is funny.
Always have. Yeah. So it's really nuts that I would leave those off. But now I've said it. I've apologized. I have offered the redaction. Is that correct?
Yes, I suppose.
So we'll just say that last week's list is a good starting point for a conversation. But it got us thinking because of the success of the top 10 Halloween playlist, we thought we would give you guys John and Stacey's top 10 horror Halloween picks.
Yes.
So, there's a few things that go on with our top 10 horror Halloween picks of movies here. And part of that is, the first cool thing is you'll be able to find the trailers to all these on ParanormalSideshow.com, where Stacey does all her cool witchy magic. And if you want to play along at home and be like, oh my God, we got to watch John and Stacey's top 10 in order. So if you do that, you're going to be a much more educated, well-rounded person.
Exactly.
I guarantee you. And you better have seen all these movies already anyway. But we were compiling this and it was kind of hard because we really love the Evil Dead franchise, but that's more horror comedy.
Right.
So we decided to leave Evil Dead 2, which is the one we love. That kind of created the whole shtick for Army of Darkness and the TV show to follow and everything. We left that off just because it was almost unfair. We left off the Hammer horror movies because they're almost their own genre, and I could have just put Hammer horror in.
I mean, you could almost just make one spot for classic horror.
Well, just classic Hammer
horror, right?
It would be different for the Universal horror,
right?
But you could have a spot for each one. In Universal horror, in The Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein are the two best that they have to offer, in my opinion.
Right.
I love the performance of Lon Chaney Jr. in The Invisible Man. It's so freaking good. But it's just a good movie. And the scream at the first Bride of Frankenstein. Oh my God.
Yes, but to be fair to some other horror movies that don't normally get the attention because of all the classic movies, we decided not to.
Yeah,
include.
well, I mean, it's just the Hammer horror is just too near and dear to us, just like Evil Dead.
I know.
So without further ado, John and Stacey's top 10 Halloween horror movies.
All right, let's get this started. Love this. Great. Okay, so number 10. Coming in at number 10.
Number 10.
Halloween.
Oh.
The original.
The original.
Of course, the original.
Yes, Michael Myers, the scariest of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Of all the fruity cereals. Coming in at number 9, our favorite little girl from a TV would be The Ring.
So creepy.
It was such a creepy movie.
It was.
You can't look at it now the same. Like, you have to remember that feeling you had.
Right, when you first saw it.
When you first seen the movie.
Exactly.
You know, when it first came out, you have to have that feeling.
You have to go back to that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so at number 8, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Absolutely. Maybe not as creepy as Michael Myers.
No,
but the movie itself is kind of a mind melt.
Well, and again, at the time period it came out, it was so scary.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, at the same time it came out, the whole dream thing was, it was very interesting, very good. Number 7, Poltergeist.
Love it. The original.
Yeah.
Original Poltergeist. Not that the new one wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But the original, I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And plus with all the weird stories about the real skeletons and the cursed set and all that.
I know,
makes
right?
the movie even
That's
scarier.
what always made it better. Absolutely.
All right. So number 6, Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead.
One of your absolute favorites.
The original. Yes.
I think that might be one of your most quoted movies.
Yeah. Barbara. They're coming to get you, Barbara. Look. That's one of them now.
Have we ever walked through a cemetery where you haven't said that?
No, there's never been a single time. Because the thing was, I got it as a child. I bought the video cassette. I bought the VHS with my own money. And like a hex. And because I wanted to see it so bad.
Right.
Because my dad had told me it was the scariest movie that had ever been made.
Right.
So it was like nonstop. I had to see this thing, right?
Absolutely.
So I bought this 1960, this black and white movie, you know, and took it home and I watched it. And the garden shear scene will never leave my. That wasn't as creepy to me though as making it through the night and then the guys shooting. When you see somebody standing there and they're not a zombie the next morning, stuff like that just always messed with me.
It's like mine messes with your head.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of messing with your head, a little Kubrick would do that with our number 5, The Shining.
Yes, definitely a great movie.
Nothing like the book, right?
No, nothing like the book. And they did, later on make a TV movie that was exactly like the book, which made me feel better. But it's still a scary movie in its own right.
I think it has to stand on its own. I think
it does.
I think the imagery.
Yes, that's what it is. It's the imagery.
You talk about stuff that quotables. My God. I mean, that's another one nonstop.
Creepy little kid.
Oh yeah.
Little kids are creepy anyway.
They are. Red rum. I mean, The Shining. I remember watching The Shining and being so inspired that I wrote a song, So, I mean, that's, for me, it's the ultimate thing was like when I'm so inspired that I write a song about you, then there's something big there.
I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that not only am I a huge Stephen King fan, I saw the movie when I was younger.
Right.
And like you said, that makes it scarier because, you're younger.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, well, let's move on. So number 4, Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, Dawn of the Dead. We have to clarify the 1978 Dawn of the Dead. And this is the only movie in our list where a sequel of some sorts, places higher than an original.
Right.
Stacey and I are very OG. Like we like.
Notice we're saying the original on a lot of things.
We like the original movies a lot of times. And this one, I mean, I consider it a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. But, regardless, the shopping mall, just the survival part of it. Oh, it's such a good movie. It's just such a good movie.
Yes.
And speaking of good movies, number 3, The Blair Witch Project.
Yes, very good movie, and at the time, very scary.
Oh, amazing!
Because nobody had really
to question
seen
if it was real or not.
Exactly.
It was the first found footage. I mean, it was the first, and we really had to question. I mean, if I remember correctly, there was even a website.
Yeah, the marketing on it was phenomenal. It wasn't anything like you'd ever seen before because nobody had ever done it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely had the scare factor there. All right, well, number 2. One of our all-time favorites, The Conjuring.
Yes, and
love that movie.
That's the most recent movie on the list, but it's made it up that far. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for us that movie is so important.
Yes.
I mean, it's the Warrens and just the whole dynamic of it, and the movie's creepy AF. Creepy AF.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
As the kids would say. And the number one John and Stacey's Halloween horror list movie of all time.
Yes.
The Exorcist.
Yes. So scary.
The version you've never seen.
Exactly. I was going to say, in this case, we don't want to go original. We want to go original with the extra stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have her coming down the steps.
Yeah, and the creepy faces flashing in
Yeah,
there.
you just got to have her coming down the steps. The spider crawl.
So
if you don't have the spider crawl, it's just not the same.
Yes, that's very true.
The Exorcist is still the premise of my favorite horror movie. Stacey's favorite is a movie like The Others.
Yes, which almost made the list because of its creep factor, but just didn't quite make it.
Psychological thriller kind of stuff. Like
not a lot of gore and blood, just more creepy.
Right. Well, I mean, I love Let the Right One In. And so do you. There's so many movies out there. Ginger Snaps.
Yes.
Ginger Snaps is if you were asking me my favorite movies, Ginger Snaps is going to be right up there. There's a lot of movies like that are really high up there, but if I'm thinking of a Halloween horror list, I don't know, man. There's just certain...
You almost have to have the goriness there for Halloween.
I mean, I don't have Friday the 13th on this list, but it's just... Because there's something creepier about Freddy Krueger. About
it actually being a monster.
Yeah.
Than ended up being a person acting like a monster.
Well, he is kind of a monster as it goes on. I mean, you can only die so many times and come back and
True.
launch to space or whatever. So yeah, I mean, he's a monster, but he's just, I don't know. The Exorcist there's nothing that beats Satan.
Well, and because it's a true story.
Yeah.
It's a true story.
On a true story.
So I bet that we actually have quite a lot of listeners that have seen all of those already.
We have.
Yeah,
I would think that I think our listeners have seen all these multiple times.
Yes.
I would dare say there's not a movie on there. Maybe Dawn of the Dead. I don't know. Our listeners are pretty smart. They really
well, I mean,
are.
when you like stuff like that, you usually go all out. So.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anybody. Now, if you have different movies, share the list.
Yes.
Let us know what we left out. We would love to know. Get a hold of us on through the website at paranormalsideshow.com and let us know. I mean, if you really got something you need to say, just get a hold of us again at paranormalsideshow.com. That's your address to say how much you hate our list. Facebook.com/paranormalsideshow. All kinds of haters on there. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97, where you put all kinds of hate for your movies and link to them. Instagram, Hot Hate Damn, it's John and Stacey Edwards. On Patreon, that's where you don't hate, that's where you love. That's where it's all about flowers and honey. Just pouring honey all over your body. And putting some flower petals out.
John.
What?
Yeah. Continue with the shilling. That's okay.
Sorry. Patreon.com/Paranormal Sideshow. Just give to the show, please, so I can stop thinking about honey and flowers and all that stuff. If we don't pause the show for a minute and hashtag Mommy Daddy Time.
Sure.
All right. Well, anyway, I think it's about that time for some paranormal news. All right, so we got a little crazy story here. This is one of our attention. This is a drop-in. We have finished the show, and so this is a timey-wimey kind of thing. And in this timey-wiminess, we had to come back because there was something that we felt was important to add to the show. So that important thing is what in the world is happening in our skies, more or less what is happening on the moon, allegedly. So if you don't know, then you better call somebody.
Oh, no.
If you didn't know, YouTube had a major blockout or even a blackout.
I know.
Yeah. Through the entire world or most of the world. Did it not include
2/3,
Guatemala?
like 2/3.
What was the 1/3 that? Because we need to be looking at that guy.
Right. We need to figure out where that is and live there.
It's like I could just see Dr. Evil right now, just like, ooh, 2/3. Yes, and it affected 1 million people. But 2/3 of the world. I think it affected most of the world, like United States, Canada, south of the border, and Australia even, I believe. Very widespread.
It was.
Maybe it didn't affect Siberia. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it affected Japan. I could probably find that one out.
Probably.
Ridiculous amount of people. Let's just say that. So, of course, people just didn't know what they were doing. I mean, people were jumping out of windows. And
it was awful.
They were like, what is that? Outside? What is that? Is that the moon? And speaking of the moon, here's where it gets weird. Stacey has a story on it. Okay, she has a few little things that we have found on it, because the thing we love about this is whenever something happens, oh my God, there's always a conspiracy.
There is.
And I love conspiracies. We live for conspiracies, so we have to report the conspiracies, because what is life without conspiracies?
Exactly.
And here's the thing about it. I want to bring this up. Before we get into this story, there's a few things I want to talk about. Number one, since we recorded the other part of this episode, we left to go to the store, and all of a sudden in the sky, in the middle of the day, you got to understand, sometimes I get maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes to go do something important, like pick up a prescription, because I'm a very busy person. So I come by the house, Stacey's already ready. I'm like, hey, okay, I got a few minutes, let's do this. So she comes outside, we look up, and I'm like, what is that? And I could see it through my sunroof, and it looked like spider webs. Okay, so it looked like spider webs that were just floating in the blue sky. But as I looked beyond those original webs, I seen more webs way up in the sky. Not a cloud in the sky. Blue as can be. Blue October, crisp autumn day. And as you look toward the sun, they seem to be radiating away from the sun, almost like circular sonar waves or something. But they were webbing. And
yes, it was very strange.
Or silk, or, something like that. It was very strange. And then there would be the occasional little orb that looked like it was there as well. Now, I have videos of this on my phone. Okay, I took many videos. I don't know what I'm going to do with those videos. So maybe if somebody is scientific, and somebody knows something out there, you want to see the video. I don't have anything against you, Jim Bob. But don't get a hold of me, Jim Bob, and say, let me see it. I'm going to figure it out now. Shit, I work over the archery department here at Bass Pro. And nothing against Bass Pro or the people over the archery department. That's some good quality people. We need you. It could be Hunger Games any day now.
Exactly.
So I'm just saying, if you have some kind of, connection to a university, or you might be able to answer a query, then it would be very good to hear from you, and maybe you could explain to me, oh, John, once every 100 years, it looks like there's spider webs coming off the sun.
Right.
So speaking of the conspiracies, right? Because whatever happened in the sky,
right,
that could be some kind of conspiracy.
Right.
I have no idea what that was.
I have no idea.
It was really strange looking, don't you think?
It was, and it went on for a long time. Like, it wasn't like just something quick. And
we had to
gone.
leave it.
Yeah, we watched it.
Yeah, we watched it 10 minutes, and it was like, I got to go.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. Weirdness, but it was weird. And speaking of conspiracies, which we're getting to the conspiracy, something interesting, because, people are so swayed by mass media that they are very quickly to dismiss someone completely. For some conspiracy theorist, it's a dirty word, dirty words. And, there's a stigma around it. Oh, that guy, he's just a conspiracy theorist, But here's the thing, people. At one point in time, the Gulf of Tonkin incident was a conspiracy theory.
It was.
At one point in time, many things were conspiracy theories.
Area 51.
Area 51 was a total conspiracy theory that they completely denied the existence of. Regardless of what happens there, they denied its existence. And, there's a lot of things like that. JFK, why would they hide anything from that? Unless somebody was still living, George Bush Sr., that could have something to do with it, So being very apolitical in this commentary that I have here, I do want to say that there are some conspiracy theorists today that, you know, their words, I think they are very dangerous for one side or another. Okay. So in keeping with that, you look at Alex Jones. Okay.
Right.
Alex Jones is very dangerous for, I believe, left wings. Because he is more on the right wing, right?
Right.
But I don't know if that's completely true or not, because when I watched Alex Jones to start with, it was right after 9/11, okay? And it was because of the 9/11 inside job stuff.
Right.
It got me very interested in that. And because I was so patriotic, and still am to this day, that I would never have imagined anything like that, nor would I want to imagine anything like that could be done by my own government on our people.
Right.
Okay. That would just bother someone like me, because I'm very patriotic. But he was very much against the Republicans. He was very much against the Democrats. He was just, you know, for himself, really, or for liberty.
Right.
And finding the truth. Reminds me of Varys in Game of Thrones.
Right. He's
for the kingdom.
Right.
Yeah, he's for the kingdom. He's like, you know, he seems like a good guy sometimes. He seems like a bad guy sometimes, but he was just for the kingdom. And more for the people in the kingdom,
right,
than any political party in the kingdom.
Exactly.
And that's how I've always seen Alex Jones. But other people don't see this, you know, see that, because he says some batshit crazy things.
He does.
And he has a weird way of expressing himself. But the thing I noticed is a lot of the stuff he says does end up happening. Like it's pretty crazy.
Well, he's definitely someone they call a conspiracy theorist.
So yeah, exactly. And I sometimes, and I'm making a point here, sometimes when people fear something and they have power, the best way they can get rid of it is just get rid of it, right? So they've wiped him from existence. So you can't see him, you can't hear him. I mean, you can if you know the way, I guess. You can listen to his podcast that he puts out himself, but you can't find it on Apple. You can't find it anywhere. You know, you're going to get demonetized if you talk about him and everything else. You know, it's like dirty words that are fed into through the system now. And, you know, there's no YouTube. There's no, and it's really crazy that we're at that level of governmental control. And when they do that, I don't go, oh, well, that guy was a crackpot and was harmful for me to listen to. I always think, what the hell was he saying in between all the crazy that was accurate?
Right.
So interesting thing happened. The Joe Rogan podcast, which I do love the Joe Rogan podcast. Elon Musk, we've talked about the episode with Elon Musk. And now, if you guys haven't watched or listened to the Elon Musk Joe Rogan podcast, go out of your way to listen to the entire thing. And I would even encourage you to listen to the entire Alex Jones one. The Alex Jones Joe Rogan podcast is the most downloaded and listened to or watched Joe Rogan podcast ever.
Wow. I didn't know that.
It's the most watched podcast in the history of Apple or whatever. And
wow.
So it had more downloads than any of them. Okay. Because I believe there's a lot of people that are secretly very much into stuff and they won't say it publicly.
Right.
But regardless, I watched a video where they compared the Elon Musk statements to the Alex Jones statements. The Alex Jones interview was about a year before the Elon Musk interview. And he said virtually the same things. Wow. And he was talking about transhumanism and how that was reality. Now, when he was talking to Joe Rogan on that, when Alex Jones was talking to him, Joe Rogan was making your stupid face. You know, the face he makes, the condescending face, and his eyes are bugged out for comedy effect. While Alex is talking about it, Joe Rogan's making the, you know, like the face.
The I don't believe you face.
Yeah, like the, oh my God, are you crazy face? And when Elon Musk was talking, of course, he was very respectful.
Right.
And was like, why do you believe that, Elon? You know? And they were saying the same thing, but it's the way they present themselves, right? So one of them opens it up for you to make fun of them, and one of them doesn't. We'll put a hit out on you. You'll be dead.
You'll be in a space, in a car.
You'll be in a car
space.
shooting through space with your hairy gorilla hands.
Right.
If you've never looked at Joe Rogan's hands, watch his hands during UFC when he holds a microphone up to somebody. It looks like a fake gorilla paw. Just saying. But it was very interesting. They went through several things, including there being many dimensions that were in a AI simulation. And Alex talked about that some of the top scientists had found weak points in the AI simulation, like where the bleed over and stuff, right?
Right.
And Elon Musk was on there talking about basically they came and found us when we were baby apes, and just the same thing. It's very interesting. It's very interesting now. And that just gives you a little idea of perspective on conspiracy theories, right? And not to be so dismissive so easily,
right?
And now there's a rogue planet. They're like 98% sure there's another planet in our solar system. It's either 98 or 99% sure that there's a giant planet.
Right. So we just talked about that last time.
Yeah, bigger than anything that we've ever had or ever thought of. That's out beyond Neptune, I believe.
Yeah.
That's in our solar system.
Yes.
Okay. Not next door, but in our solar system. Yes, we talked about it in the last show more in depth. But there again, this was a conspiracy theory for years and years and years and years. And everybody laughed and you go back to Zachariah Stitchin, who at the time, I think had the book, The 12th Planet, because that was incorporating Pluto being a planet still and the moon being a planet and all kinds of stuff. Regardless, he was a biblical scholar that said that the Anunnaki came here, found the primitive race, and screwed with the DNA of that primitive race and created mankind. Okay. And a lot of the tablets that Stitchin used to show would show, in one of the tablets you could find the picture of, he's holding a diagram. Well, the stone tablet has our solar system.
Right.
And the planets are accurate in size.
Wow.
And the diagram is accurate from like 6,000 years ago. Right. And, so it's circular. I mean, this was at a time people didn't even believe the earth was round, right? So, but it's accurate, and anybody watching ancient astronaut theories and stuff like that, about this already. I get it. But there again, it's a conspiracy theory that obviously has some basis in fact. How would they know? How would these people know back that long ago? Right. That we were. And some of those Sumerian things are just so insane, and just the numbers of years that they had people rule, and all this stuff. So just throwing this out there on conspiracies. We love conspiracy. Stacey and I, we don't talk about them on the show as much, right? Because a lot of times these conspiracies, they all, they fall political.
And also, it's kind of like UFO sightings. There may be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, but how many are actually a real UFO? Probably not that many. Right. So, you have all these conspiracy theories. There's tons of them out there. And yes, some of them are true, but the possibility is probably pretty small.
The thing is, we do log conspiracy theories as one of the topics because it is. But for us to talk about it, it has to be something pretty spectacular. Right. And this one, we feel, falls into that just because it meets all the criteria of weird, kooky, and kind of cool.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we were talking about how YouTube went down the other night. And, since that's happened, they have come out with an official explanation, which I'll tell you first before we get into, what the theories and the rumors. So the official explanation is that it was due to Pakistan. The Pakistan Telecommunication Authority ordered some of their internet service providers to block some access to YouTube because of some videos they didn't want people to see, in the country as something political. I'm not going to go into all that. But whatever they did was wrong, and it actually just took half, 2/3 of the world's YouTube down, blocked it from everybody. So they eventually got it fixed, and they're saying that is the cause for everybody losing their access to YouTube, that it had something to do with Pakistan and what they were doing in their country.
Now, as an official, as an official explanation, that sounds kind of stupid. I mean, that would be that easy. Yeah. That Pakistan.
Yes.
Of all places, that we would allow a place as progressive as Pakistan to have any kind of switch that could turn off internet for the rest of us.
It does say in this article, and I'll link to this article too, but it does say in there that there had to be there was very specific flaws. And I mean, I think everything had to be, the stars had to be aligned and everybody had to be sit in the right direction and, their fingers crossed and all. So, I mean, I think it was
possible.
Not a very easy thing to have happened, but it did happen is what they're saying. So before this official statement was made, there was a lot of rumors going around YouTube and the internet about the reason that it was shut down. And the prevalent theory, the conspiracy theory, was that there was a video that had been, I'm not sure if it was uploaded or live streaming. I'm pretty sure it was live streaming from what I understand. You can't find this video anymore. There was a man in uniform and he was talking about that something was going to hit the moon. Mm-hmm. And the video got very popular very quickly and it hit the trending and it had hundreds of thousands, I think, of viewers.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can't find the video anywhere. And somehow once that started trending, all of a sudden everybody got locked out of YouTube. And now that video is nowhere to be found.
Right.
So that is the conspiracy theory, that something was going on in space, something was going to hit the moon, or somebody was saying something that the government didn't want people to know.
Right.
So when you look it up now, there's of course a lot of people have been making videos about what they think the reason is and, the conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. So there's this one video that I am going to link to of this guy's channel. I think his name is John, and he was talking about the outage, and he was saying that during the time that the outage happened, he was actually live streaming on his own channel.
Right.
And his live stream consisted of looking at the sky with night vision.
Right.
And he was not looking towards the moon, however. He had his pointed away from the moon. He said that if you point it right at the moon, it washes out the night vision. And a lot of
people look at the sky night vision to see UFOs that are cloaked.
Right. And he was live streaming. He had people, comments coming up. And so he said that I think it was about 15 or 20 minutes before the outage happened on YouTube, they saw something in the sky on his live stream, and something he'd never seen before. And I think this is something that he does quite a lot. I don't subscribe to his channel personally, but he made it sound like this is something he does all the time. And so he was showing a part of the sky and there was something on his lens, and he was saying, ignore that. That's just a defection, on the lens. And all of a sudden something shot through his field of vision. It looked like a serpent kind of
like a giant dragon.
Right. And some people were saying that it looked like could have been a fleet of UFOs. Some people were saying, it looks like a dragon. And as soon as it shot through, he went, whoa. And people in the comments started freaking out. They're like, whoa, what was that? What? And it's very clear. Mm-hmm. You can see it. Now, when I found this video, he hadn't uploaded that video to his channel yet, but he did show it. Like, he played it a couple times. And so definitely watch that. But it's very strange. And he claims that it was heading towards the direction of the moon,
right?
From his perspective in the sky. So like he said, he doesn't know if that has anything to do with it, if that had anything to do, he didn't claim that that was the reason or that had anything to do with the YouTube outage or the moon. He was just saying, look, this is weird.
Yeah.
This happened. It was the same time frame. It was going towards the moon. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I was interested in the story, but I wasn't that interested in the story until I seen this footage, which is really cool. It's compelling footage, really. With somebody who does live streaming all the time, to see something that looks like a snake or a giant serpent in space, we can only be so lucky.
Right.
That, like the Leviathan from space, that was coming through.
Right.
But, there are some questions there, like, since everything is back up now, obviously the moon's okay.
Right.
So.
But where's that video that people were?
No, you're right.
Trending?
No, I know. So possibly, we saw another video that came out this past week, and it was an older video, so we didn't really touch on it. But it showed something with a satellite that got destroyed, and the video itself was like from a year ago. But it's very compelling, and there was a couple of channels that carried it. But it looked almost like a fleet of UFOs coming to our solar system, and there was a camera that was a radar camera that was on the satellite from the company that made the satellite.
Like, it tracked it.
It tracked it, which is common. And you could see in these frames something that looks like a fleet of freaking UFOs. You can call them satellites, whatever. It's UFOs because you can't identify what they were.
Right.
And then you see flashes coming from the satellite. Now, this particular satellite also did military. It was like there was like cross purposes here, like telecommunications and military.
Right.
Obviously, the military reason we don't know. We're never told. You would assume it's telecommunications for the military, but possibly it's some kind of defense. In the 80s, Ronald Reagan had presented the idea of doing a Star Wars thing in space for nuclear weapons. We were all scared that we were going to get nuked from the Russians during the Cold War. And I remember that clearly on the news when I was just a little kid. I remember hearing about the Star Wars because it said Star Wars.
Right.
So I paid attention to that.
Right.
And I love space. And they would have the graphics showing how it would work. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, And even then I knew if they're talking about this, and this was at the same time they had like the $30,000 toilet seats. If they're talking about this, they've done it.
Right.
And so I've always assumed that we had the Star Wars defense system.
Right.
And I also assumed that it wasn't just for nuclear weapons. Okay. So anyway, if we are working with aliens, we are. And, we have all this stuff in space. Why wouldn't we have a defense system? And there's even stories that go back to like the early 1900s with big meteors coming in and people swearing that something came out of the ground and shot it out of the sky, like an ancient defense system maybe put here by the Anunnaki.
Right.
Who knows?
Or whoever's
I love the mysteries. I love all the things that could be here, all the things this could be. But the footage that we saw, it showed these flashes of light, and it was like the satellite got destroyed, but it was like it was destroying some of these things too. And what did it have lasers come? Who knows, right? But that's the whole thing. You just don't know. Maybe they took everything down. Maybe they took care of this problem. We had some kind of rogue serpent coming in. God knows, Oh, by the way, thanks, Japan. The dragons are real,
Right.
Appreciate the art, China.
I will also say I'll link to this other article, and I don't think this has anything to do with it, but during the same time frame, we were supposed to have a near Earth object flyby, like a huge asteroid.
Right.
It wasn't supposed to hit us, but it was supposed to be between us and the moon, so very close as far as that sort of thing goes. Again, probably not related, but it's an interesting thing that was happening around the same time. Right
on. Well, it's an interesting story nonetheless, and as always, we just report it. You make up your own mind. We're not trying to sway that one way or another. What do we believe? We believe we don't know. So, and that it's really cool. So that's it. And we'll let you go now to your regularly scheduled news.
All right. So let's get to the news. Okay. So we're going to start this week with another animal mutilation story. Just because these have been coming up quite a lot recently. And this one's very strange.
They're all very strange.
So this one's from Arizona.
That is strange. Not really.
And this is a man named John Mahan. And he has...
John what?
Mahan?
Mayhem?
No, Mahan.
Oh, Mahan.
And he has a ranch out in Arizona. And one day he went out to brand some of his cattle.
Right.
And he had a bull, a fairly young bull, and a pregnant cow. And they were kind of starting a new herd. And they were missing. Couldn't find them. So they raised the alarm. The whole family, this family ranch, they went out looking for this bull and the cow.
Maybe they eloped.
And they, maybe. And after they searched over the weekend, they finally saw some like swarming birds and a nasty smell. So they, went that direction. That was a clue. So they went that direction, and they actually found the animals off the main road, kind of in a maze of juniper trees, sort of in an area that's sort of unkept up, that sort of thing. And they were just a few yards from each other, and the cow had actually been so spooked it was driven up into a tree.
What?
Yeah. So when they were found, at first he just assumed that they had been shot. Someone had just killed them. But none of the meat was gone. They hadn't even been scavenged, really. They were just sort of decomposing. And so they he put a call into the Arizona livestock inspector who came out to check on the animals, and they did a lot of different things. Like they did metal detecting to see if there were bullet casings, something like that. Nothing. There was not a lot of evidence of any kind of human presence or animal or anything. And the investigation determined that the cattle were most likely drugged, and then they were mutilated by having one of them had an ear cut off. There was a patch of hide missing. The penis and scrotum from the bull was gone. The vaginal cavity was gone from the cow, and all the blood was drained. And that is all that was missing.
Shut up.
Yeah, so very strange. And this inspector has been on this job for like 2 years, and he said this is not the first case like this that he had investigated.
In just 2 years.
Yeah. And
that's not the first bull penis I've seen go.
Well, he said one of the clues. Now,
We've been looking for a man wearing a necklace of bull penis.
I didn't see anything where it said that they tested the bull for a particular drug. What the clue was that nothing had scavenged the carcasses. No animals had touched them. No squirrels, no birds, nothing.
What was the birds doing in that location then?
I guess they were, because it was decomposing and it was the smell.
They were like negotiating with each other.
I suppose.
What do you think?
He said one of the clues
it looks like dead cow. Should we do it? I don't know, man. It just looks weird.
Like nobody else has touched it, so maybe we shouldn't eat it.
I mean, that thing's missing his penis. Well, I mean, lots of things miss their penis. No. I mean, I don't think he meant to. He ran up a tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would like to think that's what the birds are thinking.
I'm sure it is, as they circle above. But because of the lack of scavenging is what led him to believe that something like that had happened. But again, they didn't find
the glove don't fit. You must have quit.
They didn't find any evidence of any kind of tracks or anything. And of course, they determined that the animals had been there possibly about a week.
Right.
Before they were found. So very strange. Still no explanation. And, obviously if it was people, they were professionals, but I don't know why they would want those particular parts of a cow.
I've been cutting off cow ears for years. They can't even tell the difference. Surgical Precision is my middle name.
Yeah, definitely use surgical precision. So very strange story, especially after all the other ones.
It is. We had 2 weeks. We had 2 weeks full of cattle mutilations, animal mutilations, and all the blood being drained.
The blood being drained, exactly.
So then we take a week away from that, and then we have another big one. So crazy stuff, and really in that area in Arizona, you kind of expect it in Arizona, Nevada, that area of the world, or at least I do, because you just think aliens.
And and this was obviously in an area of his ranch that they didn't use a lot.
Right.
So it was very strange. I didn't realize you could spook a cow up into a tree.
I don't think you can.
I mean, how hard?
Maybe they took it up and dropped it.
Maybe. I mean, it said it was juniper trees. I don't know. Are they low to the ground? Is that a thing that can happen?
Maybe juniper trees are actually bushes. I don't know.
I don't know. It was very strange.
My history and knowledge of juniper trees is very low. I could tell you on Skyrim where they're located, in what province, and how to,
and how to grab the berries off.
And what juniper berries can do in alchemy. So...
that's something.
It is.
That's something. Yes.
I think fortifying chanting actually.
It's something good because we get them a lot.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, to go along with that story, I wanted to talk about this other story from Denmark, and it's about a mysterious animal that was found in the forest there. And at first, they didn't know what it was. Turns out that it was an alpaca.
Oh, yes. A llama.
Yes, a relative of the llama, not an actual llama, an alpaca. Better than a llama, right? Are they better?
I think that they're like, I don't know.
Well, the weird thing about this alpaca that was found dead was that its head and its hooves were removed. Yes.
Like the whole neck and everything?
No, just the head. Just it still had a neck. Just the head was gone and the hooves were gone. And it said the animal's hind legs had parts removed. So they came to the conclusion that somebody just killed it for its meat and then disposed of it. I don't know why they would take the head and hooves.
Maybe it's a delicacy.
Maybe they didn't want it to be identified.
Maybe they thought it was a dog giraffe.
I don't know. They found it pretty quickly after it had been left at the scene, but what an odd thing. I don't know.
It is. Alpaca is a very odd thing.
I mean, that's not something you normally hear about.
Especially a dead alpaca.
Well, why do you think they took its head and hooves?
I don't know.
I mean, that's obviously not something they're going to eat.
Maybe it started some crap with them.
You think?
I don't know.
It's a gang of llamas.
We're sick of it. You hear? You hear what we're saying? We're sick of this crap. Freaking alpacas. Oh, the alpacas. 1-800-ALPACA.
Nobody likes llamas anymore.
No llamas anywhere. We can have a home, see? We can have a home. No, you won't even share, right?
All your animals sound like gangsters today.
They are gangsters. All the animals are gangsters today.
All right.
And they have toothpicks. And, yes.
Of course they do. And hats. Uh-oh, I think there's a war going down. All right. Well, let's move on to some space news.
Space news.
Yes. So this is another story about some more fast radio bursts.
Oh, there's more.
Yes, that have been
Jeez, you remember back in the good days when it was like, we've never seen this before.
I know.
This is the first time. They're calling these FRBs. What's that, Stacey? FRBs. Oh, I don't know why your voice is deeper than mine on the flashback, but just go with it. So what are FRBs? Well, they're fast radio bursts, honey. And they're amazing because they've not been done before, and they could possibly be intelligent life from outer space. And that was like 5,000 FRBs ago.
Well, this is a new study led by Ryan Shannon of the Swinburne University in Australia.
Swinburne?
In Australia.
Yeah.
Yes. And they've been using the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder, or ASCAP.
No.
Because everything has to be.
It's called ASCAP?
ASCAP.
Oh, ASCAP?
ASKAP. ASCAP. How would you say that?
I don't know.
I like ASCAP.
ASCAP is like something that the models are going to want soon. Like you're going to have 14-year-old girls going, oh, look, Bonnie, she's got such a nice ASCAP. I want an ASCAP like Chloe. Can we get an ASCAP like that? Her cheeks are probably 3 inches apart.
Well, this particular...
She has to use a cork to keep it in.
This particular array can scan a large area.
She could fit a hot dog down between those.
Of the sky. So they have recently found 19 previously undiscovered ones.
Of the FRBs.
Yes. And what makes these unique is these include the closest one to Earth and the brightest one ever seen.
And these are two new ones that they found.
These are new ones.
So the new ones they found was the closest one to Earth and the brightest one.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if the same guy found them.
It's an interesting...
I'll take the rest of the week off.
Article. Yeah, really. It's an interesting article. One thing they don't bring up that I thought was really interesting is it seems like every time they discover these, they're discovering them closer to Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a trend? Is that a thing?
Yes,
that's
Jeff
happening?
Goldblum. That's probably something that somebody should know about. Do you think we should go see the president?
I mean,
can we go stand outside the West Wing and just be like, Donald, could you please look outside?
I think they're getting close.
I think it'd be Kellyanne Conway, right? That's who we'd have to call. Kellyanne. Could you look out? How do you keep doing that? Just look out. Hi. We're waving, because it's Independence Day.
Of course. But I thought it was interesting that they are finding more, but I think it should be noted that apparently they're finding them closer to Earth than they were originally.
So you didn't read that anywhere? You just thought of that?
I didn't read that. No, it does say that they've found one the closest they've ever found, but nobody's mentioned that perhaps we should be worried that they're closer than they were when we first discovered them.
It's freaky.
Something we'd never discovered before.
Yeah. I mean, you're good with that. You're always good with patterns.
I mean, it's something to think about at least, We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure I'll have more FRB stories.
Or we'll have aliens.
Or something.
Outside.
All right. Well, let's move on. And here's a really cool discovery. And this is a discovery of a child, quote, vampire grave. This child was buried 1,550 years ago in Italy.
In Italy?
Italy.
Oh.
Are you having trouble with your ears today?
When you hear this back, you're going to feel bad for saying that to me. Because
do I have trouble with my talking today?
You said Italy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought Italy was like somewhere near Philly.
It is.
But
all right, so
I thought maybe it was like some kind of slang for Illinois. I don't know. Where you from?
Just never know.
I'm from Italy. So it was the little vampire baby.
Is a young child about 10 years old.
Oh, not a baby.
And when they found the burial, the child was buried with a rock in its mouth.
Oh, that's
which
suck.
Is traditionally something that they would do. Something they would do if they were afraid that someone was going to come back as a vampire.
Yes.
So they're actually, locally they're calling it a vampire.
Right.
Although the archaeologists feel like this particular child died of malaria. Like there's some evidence. They haven't done the specific DNA testing on it, but that there is evidence through different things they saw with the bones that suggest
Do they
that
have
perhaps
malaria in Italy?
The child died of malaria. Apparently, they
Well,
did 1,550 years ago.
I thought that was an African disease.
Well, this particular cemetery where they found it was actually called the Cemetery of the Babies, because up until now, the oldest skeleton they found was of a 3-year-old girl. So this is the oldest child that they found in this particular cemetery. Most of them are toddlers and babies and stillborn children, things like that. And that's what they thought that this cemetery was. There's still a lot of unexcavated area in this particular cemetery. So
Is this the only one they found with a stone in its mouth?
So far, I believe this is the only one they found with a stone in their mouth. So they feel like perhaps they did that because they didn't want, they were terrified of this disease spreading. So any kind of superstitious, witchcrafty type things that they could do at the burial, normally they would have done those
they
sort
should
of
probably
things.
still do that stuff.
Probably.
When I die, will you put a stone in my ass?
Just so people wonder when they dig you up 1,000 years later.
It's like, oh my God, it's one of them. It's the Aspire. It's I don't know. That's really crazy though. I mean,
can I bury you face down, like with your butt in the air?
Do you really want that weapon out like that? I figured we should probably have it in a burlap or something. It's,
that could be a new trend. Just when you bury your family members, put them in odd positions.
I'm totally gonna put like a rock in your mouth and pennies on your eyes and everything, because we're morbid like that. They're gonna be, aren't you sad? She's totally not in that thing right now.
So she would love this, I swear. It'd be
put
great.
the fake like glasses and stuff on, and with the little mustache. Because everybody's so sad at a funeral. Can you imagine having the family come up and you having like, because you've requested it, having like a cigar and like the funny glasses?
Maybe you should bury me in like clown regalia.
I want googly eyes.
Stick googly eyes on your
googly
eyelids.
eyes.
Kind of like that statue. Somebody got in trouble for putting googly eyes on the statue.
Oh, I thought you'd get that story.
I didn't. There were so many stories. I didn't think googly eyes on a statue.
Oh.
It was just a funny picture.
It was. It looked like Marty Feldman.
It looked like a very serious story, and then when you clicked on it, the picture came up, and it was a statue with these huge googly eyes. It was hilarious.
Yes, great story. Yes. The child vampire, strange, and sad that they had that kind of superstition that that maybe the poor baby died, under some bad situations, and
right.
Who knows? But it's funny how many of these have been uncovered the last few years.
Yes,
So,
it is strange. I mean, the customs back then were just very different.
Yes, they were burning witches.
All right, well, since we're talking about discoveries, let's talk about this one. You're going to love this discovery. This is of a Viking ship and cemetery found buried in Norway.
Oh.
Yes.
Of course I love it.
Yes, anything Viking. So archaeologists using radar scans have detected a Viking ship buried beneath a cemetery in Norway.
So the longship, it's a longship.
I think so, yes.
And it's below...
It's buried about 1.6 feet beneath the ground, is what the statement is. It was the Norwegian Institute for Cultural Heritage Research. And they said the archaeologists discovered the anomaly using the radar scans, and the ship seems to be about 66 feet long and buried about 1.6 feet beneath the ground. And they said that its keel and floor timbers are intact, although they can't really tell how preserved it is because it's not been uncovered yet. And that the ship is actually part of a cemetery that has the remains of at least 7 burial mounds, which are dome-shaped hills, of dirt and stones. And they, the scans indicated those were all there, and that nearby is the remains of 5 longhouses where the Vikings would have lived. So it's not just this ship buried. It's like
it can tell us so much more.
Yeah, it's like this whole area.
Do they have a date?
I don't think so because, it's just scans.
Right.
So they haven't actually gotten to test anything. I do know that they are planning on doing the excavation so that they can use all of their modern means of archaeology to date it.
See, there's so little known, right? There's so, because of not having a whole lot of written text, there's so little that we know about the Vikings.
Right.
So any discovery like this, that's magnificent. What a huge discovery.
They're guessing that that this newly discovered cemetery longhouses are near a previously excavated burial mound, which is called the Gel Mound, after a king named Gel. It was sort of built for him, and that dates back to around 1,500 years. And, you know, they're really excited because they only know of 3 well-preserved Viking ships that have been found in Norway. And those were all found quite a long time ago, before we had all this new, you know, technology that they are able to use. And this one's not even been uncovered. So super excited about, you know, getting into this dig. And they actually have a guy on it that's an expert on Viking ships and that sort of thing. So
all this new ground penetrating radar that we have, and the way we have to fly over and look at like the stuff they discovered in the Amazon that made us find out that it hasn't always just been that canopy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
It is. It's amazing.
I think that it's going to help us finally discover the fact that there was, you know, highly intelligent man before before we started over again.
Right. And that even where we are now, I think we were more technologically advanced than they predicted we were, you know, longer ago. But yeah, very exciting. I'm going to follow that one. And if you go on the story, there's pictures, the radar scans, you can see the outline of the ship and that kind of thing. So very exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, so let's talk about this one other study that came out. And I don't necessarily agree with this study. It's interesting. It's about the Easter Island heads.
Oh, God.
And the only thing I don't agree about this is that the article is touting that the Easter Island head mystery has been solved.
That's what they always tout.
And that's not entirely true. Now, it's interesting what they found and what they're theorizing, but I don't think that it solves any kind of mystery about the Easter Island heads at all. So everyone knows about the lost civilization of Easter Island and about the iconic Moai heads and, you know, the whole mystery surrounding them. What are they for? Who put them there? That sort of thing. So this anthropologist named Carl Lippo, he spent like 20 years studying the Rapa Nui people and their disappearance from Easter Island. And one of the things he always wondered was, you know, how this population could survive at all, because there was very limited access to drinking water, you know, on the island. And him and his colleagues from California State University, they carried out some field studies, and they found some what they call brackish water, which is saltier than regular water, but not as salty as seawater. And it is something you could use to live on.
Right.
So they, you know, theorized that that is how these people lived. They used that water. So they started plotting points where they were finding this brackish water on the coast of Easter Island. And it turns out that it coincides with areas where these heads are. And so their theory is that the Easter Island heads are actually place markers showing where, like, they point to where fresh water is. And that is what they believe that the purpose was. And that's pretty much everything they found out, which is interesting in its own right.
Yes.
And it could be possible that there is water where the heads are, but I don't think that solves the mystery.
Okay. Okay, so here we go. Rebuttal.
Okay.
So what you're telling me is that these people in ancient times, using stone tools, or little to no tools, created these magnificent multi-ton rock formations, and upright, by the way, all over the island, and to show where they're not quite as salty as seawater water was.
Yes, where they could find some
instead
water.
of just maybe sticking a twig in the ground, or slicing a goat up and putting a skull there,
maybe living nearby,
or you know, or something like that. So all these years, that's what it's been. Instead of, I don't know, the suppression of the fact that giants roamed that island, and it's one of the last places that 33-foot tall human beings, or not even human beings, whatever the hell they were, because that's some of the great stories from Easter Island, is the stories of the giants that roam there, okay? And, you know, maybe it had something to do with them. Maybe it had something to do with something else. I'm not saying it's aliens. Could be aliens, though. It's a lot more plausible than that's where my salty water is. And let me spend 4 years making this stupid head so I don't forget where it's at on this little island.
Water that you use every day. Yes. Some of those statues are up to 30 feet in height. I mean, that just seems...
You would use all the water building the stone.
Well, that is the nature of this new study.
It's just frustrating. Somebody's giving this person money. Money. Like dinero.
Yes.
To make this, to plot this, to summarize this. He spent 20 years of his life.
Well, studying the people, yes, but I think it's kind of a far stretch to say. I mean, it's an odd coincidence that the water's there where the statues are, but...
Okay, I can't say that's not the reason.
No.
Okay? I cannot definitively, because I wasn't there.
Right.
Nor was Chuck. Whatever the hell his name was. Carl. It was Carl.
It was Carl.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
He should have stayed in the house, right?
Yeah. So, Carl, please stay in the house, Coral. Wow.
I feel like perhaps the statues definitely had another purpose, and
the spirits of the island got the Coral and told him.
Maybe they did put him near
Say
the
that it's
drinking
the water,
but it's not because of the water. It's because of some other reason. I don't know, some kind of religious reason or something. I don't know. Very strange. Very strange.
Yes. Thank you for the story.
But I thought you'd enjoy that.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Do you feel better now?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Feel a little off your chest?
Yeah, okay. Can we move? You got a clown story, maybe?
No, I didn't get a clown
okay.
story. You asked me not to, so I didn't.
Yeah, there wasn't one for you to get.
Yes, there are.
Really?
Yeah, from like England and stuff. They've been arresting people all over the place.
Oh, you can get them.
There's a story from Tennessee where some guy got really stabbed in a haunted house.
Really?
Yeah, like his arm, he really got stabbed in the arm by like somebody in the haunted house. I think it was an accident, but apparently the knife the guy was holding was a lot more real than he thought.
Holy cow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? All right, so let's go on to a space story.
Oh, back to space.
This is sort of about NASA. And they are actually meeting today, I think, in fact, this week definitely, to make a decision about the hunt for alien life on Mars. So what they're doing is they're trying to plan where their next lander is going to be on Mars. That's going to search, for signs of alien life. So this debate comes because NASA's being urged by the National Academy of Sciences to make the search for extraterrestrial life more of a core part of its strategy. Like they want them to focus on that with every mission. And so they brought together about 300 scientists, and it's called a Mars 2020 workshop where they kind of debate. They started with this long list of like 30 possible landing sites, and they've started narrowing them down. And they like to get input from a lot of different people in the scientific community. So they go and they do this, summit or whatever, and they talk about it. And then once they decide, they will, plan to do that in 2020 and send the launcher.
Why don't they just go to Phobos?
I don't know.
The monolith on the moon of Mars, Phobos.
Is that your suggestion for?
Well, I mean, there's a monolith,
right?
That's all by itself, standing erect on a moon of Mars, and why don't we go there? Buzz Aldrin, on an interview probably 4 years ago,
right,
on C-SPAN of all places, if I remember correctly, said, where they need to look is on Phobos for that monolith. If you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, it just seems like foreshadowing that we need to go look at that monolith. It might be the 14 commandments or something,
There's 14.
Well, on Mars.
Well, the choice is really important because that's where they're going to send their lander. They plan on sending it in July of 2020, and it's expected to touch down on Mars in February of 2021 and then start its search. And they have detailed how they're actively looking for what they call techno-signatures, which are signs that technologies are being used elsewhere in the universe. That's techno.
Albert, I believe we found one. It's so rhythmic.
Maybe that's what the fast radio bursts are. Really?
You got any ecstasy?
All right. So one of the reasons why I talked about this is because I saw this other article. And see, that's how NASA does things, nice and slow and steady. So I saw this other article.
You're all over it, though.
About Elon Musk.
Yes.
One of your favorite people.
Who really needs a perfume by this point. Elon Musk.
You wouldn't even have to name it anything else, would you?
Smell like crazy success.
Well, Elon Musk, one of his main goals is he wants to colonize Mars.
Yeah.
And so I found this article that sort of put together a timeline of what SpaceX has
I heard Bill
announced.
Cosby wanted to go on it once he found out that you had to put him to sleep on the way.
That's terrible. This timeline of things that they have announced and what Elon Musk's ambitious plan is for colonizing Mars. And I just want you to compare this to what NASA is doing.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm sitting back.
So basically what they're doing right now this year is they want to build a launch support facility in a town near Brownsville, Texas. This will be a place where they can work on the big Falcon spaceship, the new one that they're going to use to take people and supplies to Mars.
Gotcha.
It's still in development.
Yeah.
And so they need a place to test launch it and,
Right.
have a big open place where there are a lot of people.
And Elon Musk wants to work on an actual giant falcon.
Yes. And it's going to look just like wings and everything. Yes.
Fly to space.
So the president and chief operating officer of SpaceX has said that in 2019, they hope to test launch the prototype ship of the Big Falcon spaceship.
Yeah.
So that's next year. Okay. So the goal there is just to gather data for it, see what they need to do. I mean, they're just
Right.
like on track. So
Boom.
2020 to 2021, they want to try a full-on launch of this. They call it the BFR,
Yeah.
Big Falcon rocket. And they want to get it into
Oh,
orbit.
that's not what they call it internally. That's not what they call it internally at all.
No, probably not.
The BFR. What's that for? Oh, it's a Big Falcon rocket.
Yeah.
It's the biggest Falcon rocket we've ever seen.
Now they haven't made a decision on a specific time frame, but sometime in 2020, 2021, they want to have it in orbit where it's actually, the real ship and it's, moving.
Yeah, legit ship.
So in 2022, they want to launch 2 missions to Mars full of cargo and supplies. No people, just
Right.
cargo and supplies. Just, that's their timeline. They want to go ahead and launch it. The reason they picked 2022 is because that's the time when Mars and Earth are closest because, they come close every couple years. So the summer of that year is the best time to do that kind of launch. So in
That's when they send the spam and the tang.
So if they launch, then those will actually land on Mars somewhere at the end of 2022 into 2023.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're still only a few years away.
Right.
So then sometime in 2023, assuming that all of that went as planned, that they want to send people on that rocket for a trip around the moon. Now here's where they've already sold seats to passengers.
Oh.
To send. So in last month in September, he introduced the world to the first space tourist hopeful, which is a Japanese billionaire.
Of course.
His name is Yusaku Maezawa, I think is how you say it. And he's a billionaire who actually not only bought his seat, but bought all the seats on the rocket. This is how they're funding their building and their research.
So he's going to be by himself.
No, he's taking people with him. He's picking people to take with him. It's going to be like 7 or 8 people. But they didn't say how much he paid.
Do you think he has the one guy working for him that's like, please don't pick me, please don't pick me, please? And he's got,
It's an undisclosed sum of money, most likely hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah, or
for
billion.
this. But he wants to be the first space tourist.
Well, listen, Mr. Masawa. Number one, Stacey, what's my favorite culture in the world?
Japanese.
Okay.
Yes.
What's my favorite food?
Japanese food?
What's my favorite girls other than you?
Japanese girls.
Right. Mr. Masawa, I would love to come, Masawa-san, and join you on this wonderful rocket tour because you need your big muscle with you.
You never know what you're going to run into.
You never know. It's space, right?
That's right.
I'd be willing to jump in front of you, Masala.
So after that week-long trip, assuming, again, everything goes smoothly, in 2024, they want to blast people, the first human voyage to Mars. And
human
hopefully,
bridge to Mars?
Human voyage
Oh,
to Mars. And
Lord, that got real gruesome in my head.
how many people would you need to solve our population?
Everyone who started crap on Facebook, they've been monitoring it. It's like, did you make a political post in the past 2 years that made 40 of your friends delete you?
Want to be part of a bridge into the future? Yeah.
Oh, God, the human bridge. That's like the new movie for the human centipede people.
So a human voyage.
Yes. Sorry.
To Mars. So they essentially want to put boots on Mars in 2025. So that is their goal.
And they're going to put people on Mars in 2026.
Yeah, not just the boots. So that those people would essentially be using the spaceships to live in at first while they work on Mars, a Mars habitat that they call Mars Base Alpha, which they think will be finished around 2028. And essentially, if all of that goes as the timeline is planned, we could essentially colonize Mars by 2030.
When are we going to terraform Mars?
After the base. Like he's got the terraforming going on like in the 2030s.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
Because then we'll get an atmosphere.
That is like a super ambitious plan.
Just imagine, okay? We terraform Mars. We get an atmosphere, right? And then our children's children could possibly be in a pollution-free planet.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
you only send non-crazy people. No, I mean, seriously, I would send everyone who is peaceful,
right,
non-insane.
Well, you would have to have a certain temperament and will to be one of the first colonists on another planet because, you know, you're going to be living in close quarters with other people. I mean, that's a real issue. That's something they really have to look at.
I mean, I think we should still send handicapped people. I think we should send people that even have non-threatening sickness, you know, of some sort, because that to me does not disqualify you, obviously.
No, obviously.
I think that what would be disqualifications is only one thing really, and that would be violence.
Right, if you're a very violent person.
I believe violence and short-sightedness, you know, that's not that kind of stuff. You're going to have to be able to work with a wide array of people.
Right.
And be in close quarters. I mean, the insanity would go nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real concern, even for people that are sound in mind. I mean, you got to think when you're there is no escape.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can't just go home.
You're there for life.
You're there.
There's no coming home. There's no homesick. You've got to stay there. So that's scary part right there, because there is no, I watched the videos originally when they were like talking to certain people that wanted to go.
Right.
And the whole thing of it was, you're going forever.
Yes.
There's no return trip.
If you're young enough, perhaps they could find a way to make the return trip, you know, in your lifetime. But for people that are older, you know, if you go, you're there.
Let me tell you what's the most interesting part of it to you?
The most interesting part to me is probably the terraform. If they could really find a way to terraform and then to have that second play, like, because you'd still have people here on Earth, but you'd have people on Mars.
Right.
You would have a choice.
So for me, it's the physiology of the difference that the children will start looking like.
Right.
In the different atmosphere. Because we just don't know what that'll do.
No, because the gravity's different and the atmosphere will ultimately be different.
That's where we figure out that we eventually look like grays.
Probably.
And then it all comes circling around.
Exactly.
And we find out, you know, like, hey.
Yes. Well, I thought that was really interesting because, you know, as long as everything goes the way he wants it to, and they seem to be making strides very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, compared to what NASA's doing, who has to deal with the government and the red tape and all that. I mean, by the time Elon Musk is halfway to colonizing Mars, you know, NASA's going to land a launcher up there to look around.
They'll arrest him before then for some other stuff.
Probably. But definitely an interesting article. There's a lot more information in the article that you can read, and some links to some other things and the SpaceX website and stuff like that.
I need to send him the idea for Elon Musk.
Yes, I think so.
Elon Musk.
It smells like ambition.
I can just see the model in black and white right now on the screen.
Right.
Crazy beautiful. Are you a genius? I'm a genius. Elon Musk.
Well, the commercial wouldn't have anything to do with actual
And then have
perfume.
this little naked guy with like holding these two giant feathers, just like balleting across the across like Swan Lake, and just be like, Elon. I could make a great commercial. Just one of those.
I think
where
you
people,
missed your calling.
Oh yeah,
just be in marketing.
I want the real old man with the divot face, like the all the lines in his face, like really close up to the side of the TV where you see his eye and you see the lines and the weathering and stuff, and the whole time he says nothing, and all this other stuff's going on behind him. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be weird.
It'd be weird. Yeah.
Sounds just like a cologne commercial.
It does. I love cologne commercials because they're just like.
It's like sometimes you watch commercials like for jeans and stuff, and you're like, "What is this commercial for? I don't understand."
I used to know what they were for when it was Brooke Shields.
Well, yeah.
I kind of figured that one out because they emphasized the part of the clothing they were trying to sell. The only thing she was wearing, the jeans. I think that's beautiful marketing. It's like, we're trying to sell a bra. Here's this naked girl wearing a bra. We just want to sell you the bra. We're not just trying to push nudity. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to push our clothes.
I just want you to pay attention.
Yeah, we just want you to pay attention to clothing. So anybody out there in marketing, just take my hint right there. Unless it's men.
Right.
I don't want to see like Western shirts modeled
by naked men.
Naked men. It'd kind of ruin it for me. Anyway.
All right. Well, let's move on. I don't really have any other space news, but I did want to mention this interesting thing about some UFO sightings that we saw on Facebook recently.
This is really cool.
Yeah, so there were actually two very recent ones. One was from Maine, and there were some pictures on Facebook of this weird blue, like plasma-looking light in the sky. And there is actually a report. Whoever saw this and took the pictures actually made a report to MUFON, and I'll link to the link for the long report. It
the stuff that happened
says,
around this with the other sightings in that same area is what makes it so interesting.
It says that there were jets that were flying very low and reported to suddenly change directions. There were planes. The planes were low enough to shake people's houses, and that the people saw military helicopters. And things like that. And that the helicopters were in tight formation, and that some of the posts about the sighting on social media had been deleted. Yeah. So that was the one from Maine.
Note that part, kids.
Yes. And so then there was another post of someone that's actually friends of ours on Facebook.
With both of us.
Yes. And he's from Rhode Island. His name's John from Rhode Island. Yeah. And he actually posted something that he saw and took a picture of. And it was just something he saw weird as he was driving.
4 a.m.
And I actually have a screenshot of that, and I'll post it up there. It's a very compelling picture of something very strange. Now, he didn't actually, I do want to point out, he didn't actually get on there and say, look at this UFO I saw. He said, I saw this while I was driving. It's strange. UFO, what do you all think? So the weird part around this was I went back to look at the post, and it wasn't there. Right. So I contacted him. I was like, look, you posted this. I was curious. I can't find it. And he said that he was forced to remove it by Facebook, that supposedly somebody complained saying that he was trying to make money off the post and that it was fake. And Facebook told him that he could either remove it or they would delete his account. Yeah. Which, number one, is weird because he didn't even say that it was a UFO. He was just saying, this is weird. What do you think it is? Yeah. And he wasn't trying to make money off of it. And he doesn't know who technically supposedly reported it. So that was weird. And to get even weirder, I was putting the news together today, and I went back to look at the original plasma one from Maine. It's also gone.
Really?
Yes. So both of these now are just unavailable attachments from Facebook of things that people weren't really saying were UFOs. It were basically just weird pictures of things in the sky saying, hey, what do you think this is?
What the heck?
But for some reason, both of them were completely taken off. And I know that the one, I don't know about the one from Maine because
the one from Maine was one of my Facebook friends up in Maine.
Yeah, see, I didn't get a chance to talk to them, but I did talk to John, and he said that he was forced to remove it. And so I thought that was really strange, especially as good as the picture was. Yeah. Yeah. Now, he said the only thing he told me was that one of his friends thought it was a stealth blimp. Don't really know a lot about those, so I can't comment on whether it looked like that or not. But I'll post the picture that he had put up so that you guys can go to our website and look at it and see what you think.
Regardless of the authenticity of the picture or what it may be, the fact that the Facebook police are censoring our freedom to show what we see
Right.
I mean, and there's not some, flappy fun bags hanging off of it. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
It is very strange, and especially because
if I take a picture of a circle with, if I see something outside and I don't know what it is, and it's circular like that with a million lights, I have every right in the world to be able to post that. Because it's crazy. I don't know what it is.
What this is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's something that the internet is like. That's what it's based on, is share a thought, and so other people can go, well, this is what this is, dude.
Right.
That's my favorite part of the internet. Is I could throw a picture up and go, I have no idea what this is, and somebody's going to be like, oh, hey, well, it's a it's a locust
I've studied
of the 12th plague.
There you go. Yeah. That's kind of the point, and even to the point that neither one of these people, and I know for a fact that John wasn't trying to market anything, and he even put on his post, I'm not saying this is a UFO, it's just, it's unidentified, it's a UFO in that sense, I don't know what it is, and he was just looking for some, insight on it. So very strange.
It's so strange. Me saying that, it just reminded me of something. This was like in between shows, so it was just a conversation of us, but the crazy thing with the locust that I was talking about, and we were seeing all these biblical plagues, and like the red water, and
some weird stories. Like North Carolina, they're overrun with frogs. It says that they're falling from the sky, but basically they're just being overrun.
Right.
And so when you walk out of your house, they'll like fall on your head and crap like that.
And that's what got us start talking about it.
Right. But that could totally be a biblical plague kind of thing. It doesn't have to be raining frogs. They could just be falling on you.
Yeah, and then the bloody water, and which was
red water.
There's some reason for it, but and then the locusts were also, we were reading about. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and I saw this article recently also about people seeing fish swimming in the Dead Sea, or around the Dead Sea, and vegetation growing.
Wait a second. I know you're more on the biblical stuff than me, but didn't you tell me that was a bad thing?
Well, it's just one of those biblical prophecies where it was like a vision that Ezekiel had, where it'll come back, that area will come back to life, and
so that's where Sodom and Gomorrah were,
right? Where it's supposedly that's the area where Sodom and Gomorrah was cursed, and the whole land was cursed, but then eventually it's supposed to flourish again
at the end of days.
Yes, right before the second coming, or that sort of thing. So it's definitely a Bible prophecy. So, and it's not like there's trees growing or anything, but there are fish swimming, I think the article said, in the little pools around the Dead Sea where the water's receded.
Why don't we go kill them?
I'm not sure that's the answer exactly.
Sounds plausible.
There actually is.
If I was like a Bond villain.
I didn't bring that story, but I'll still put a link to that story. You can read it, because there's actually some kind of restoration project going on.
We'll kill those people too.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to issue it in or something.
We'll sacrifice them to our pagan gods. Stop this madness. We gotta stop Armageddon. Ooh.
What?
Stopping Armageddon. Boy, does that show look good, or what?
Oh, yes. What's it called? Good Omens?
Good Omens.
Yes, that looks great.
Oh my God, David Tennant.
I love David Tennant. He makes a great demon.
You had me at David Tennant. David Tennant Demon, you really had me. It's coming on Amazon in like 2019.
Yeah, but they're showing the trailers already.
Oh my God.
So it looks so good.
We just watched a movie last night in the middle of our news here, we'll just tell you. On Netflix, Stacey and I cuddled up in the bed and watched The Apostle.
Yeah, with Dan Stevens.
Yeah, the Danimal. He's in it.
I love him.
Yeah, it's hard for me not to get Downton Abbey, but he's lost so much freaking weight. Like wasn't he a little bit chubby in Downton Abbey?
I think so, but in Downton Abbey he was rich, and
everything was great until he had the car wreck.
Exactly.
Stupid car wreck. God, I was so mad.
I know.
Anyway, that show was that we watched last night, The Apostle. It was really good. It was a mind warping movie. It was, but I loved it. It was really good. So that there's another suggestion for you. If you need something to Netflix and chill with,
right?
That's probably not the ideal movie,
but it is good.
Yeah, because you're going to want to finish this one. Now they also added Monty Python. Our favorite thing in the world.
Monty Python.
Yeah, the whole flying circus is on there.
Yes.
So all 4 seasons.
All right, well, let's move on. So here's a story from Uganda.
Oh, Kamala? Is it about Kamala?
It is not about Kamala.
Son of Kamala?
No.
Yeah, Kamala's from Alabama.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I told you. I was at the Mid-South Coliseum. I was privileged enough to be at the Mid-South Coliseum with one of my mentors, Kid Cash. And I was there on the last night they had a show in the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
So I was there, and I was standing backstage with Jerry the King Lawler, superstar Bill Dundee, all these huge stars, Terry Funk, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Terry Funk, all these gigantic stars from past and present in the Memphis era. And Kamala, the Ugandan giant, was standing beside me at the curtain, the gorilla position, if you will. And we were watching the main event together. And it was so cool because Lawler was out there and there was all this stuff going on. And big old Kamala, the big Nubian beauty that he is, the 6 foot whatever, 6'5", whatever. And he's standing beside me and he's like, and he spits a big dip in the floor. Just a huge chaw.
Right.
And he's like, how you doing? It going pretty good? I was like, yes, Kamal, it's going great. It's fine. It was like, it's
childhood destroyed.
You know what though? The one that didn't get destroyed was I was the biggest Abdul the Butcher fan in the world. Another I've got a thing for huge black men. Right. And anyway, so
that's an interesting thing to admit.
Well, so Abdul the Butcher, we're amongst friends.
Right.
So Abdul the Butcher, is 500 pounds.
Right.
And he'd pull out the knife and the fork and he would, carve you up and all this stuff. And so you knew like how much I was into him before. So I got to work with Abdul the Butcher, which was the bee's knees for me.
Right.
It was the cat's pajamas. It was every cute little thing.
It must have been good because you're like going back to 50s slang. So it must have been great.
It was the greatest thing in the world, but I was afraid it would be ruined. Every hero I've met has ruined it for me.
Right, because you're meeting the people.
Right, because I'm backstage and I'm peers with them and I see their inadequacies and all this stuff, right? But the one person that really lived up for me was absolutely Abdul the Butcher, because Abdul the Butcher, right in the middle of the locker room, it was just like, because he had heard me out in the ring with somebody else and I wasn't originally going to get to work with him.
Right.
And I come to the back and he's like, oh. He does have a high-pitched voice because he doesn't ever talk, right? So we know why when he does talk.
Right.
And he's like,
oh, how'd you out there? That was really good stuff. So I'm going to be working Jackie Fulton tonight.
Bobby Fulton.
I'm going to be working Bobby Fulton tonight. And I'd like you to cut a promo on Bobby.
And his manager that he had with him, that traveled with him and like did things like cut his toenails. Like it was, they did everything for this guy.
Right.
When he went to Japan, they were like emperor, like carry him around. Huge. Yeah. Huge. So I'm standing there and he goes, cut a promo. And he's like, cut a promo about what we did to his brother in Japan. And he's like, do it now. In front of everybody. Buff Bagwell's back there, Jake the Snake's back there, all these big time wrestlers are back there. And without hesitation, I was like, Bobby Fulton, and I just went on and I was like, Abdul the Butcher. And I know everything about the guy, which he didn't know. Okay. I found out later somebody smartened him up about how much I love him.
I see.
Yeah. One of the boys is like, you're his idol. But so I got to work with him. But yeah, that's like the one time I can think of that it didn't like ruin every expectation I had of meeting that, that star or whatever. But
he must just show his true colors in the ring.
Oh yeah, he's
that's him.
Okay, like just for instance, really quickly, he hands me a beer bottle before we go out.
Right.
And he's like, don't hand this to me until it's time. When I look at you, I'll give you the Iggy. I'll put my hand out. You give me the bottle. And I'm like, all right. So I've always, the whole wrestling thing and blading and all this stuff, right? I'll whisper so people don't hear. But he takes the beer bottle. You know what he does with it?
Did he break it?
He breaks it on the guardrail. On the front, the fans are in the front row, and takes the broken knife of the glass,
right,
of the bottle, and he cuts the guy from ear to ear.
Oh, jeez!
Just right in front of me, like. I'm completely mesmerized. I'm so in love at that point. There was no crazy carny trick. He's like, whoosh, whoosh.
I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised you didn't come home with a huge cut on your own head I'm surprised you didn't ask him to cut you.
No.
Just for, posterity's sake.
Yeah, that's the night I got Jake the Snake down my trousers. So
Oh, yes, I remember that. I think you told that story.
Yeah, all the same night. So no.
That was definitely a night for you, wasn't it? Monumental.
It was a monumental night, but dare continue.
Oh, all right. So
Pray
anyway,
continue.
Okay, so back to the story from Uganda.
Yes.
Because that's as far as I got.
Okay.
All right. So in the story, some parents of some children that went to a school,
Right.
lots of different families, about 45 of the students, the different families, they took their children to the police station over suspected demon attacks at the school.
Why they've been attacking demons for?
Because they're terrible people. No. So it's the Kabula Primary School. They actually stormed the station and brought all their children, and they were demanding the release of a suspected Kenyan witch doctor that was being held in the cells there because they wanted them to cast the demons out from their children. Supposedly the children were acting very strangely at the school. Even one of the parents talked about how his 5-year-old daughter started behaving very strangely after being, quote, possessed, saying sometimes she could walk like a snake. Not sure what that means exactly, and make a very strange sound. And that some of the other colleagues were making funny noises and crying out loud while they're at school. And so they were just convinced that someone had cursed the school and that everyone was being possessed by demons. So these parents were irate, nothing was being done. So they went to the police station and they demanded that this witch doctor be released so that he could cast the demons out. So the police commander claimed that the situation was completely uncalled for, that he didn't feel like that was the answer. They should understand their problems and learn how to solve them without being violent, and that they should have gotten all of their leaders and teachers to discuss a possible solution. So they had, the parents and kids all brought back to the school so they could investigate. So here's what they did. They contacted some local witch doctors to come. And they discovered that there were some traditional herbs that had been planted in the school and around the school, and that the person responsible, who they don't know who it is, had the intention of extorting money from the school to remove the, quote, curse, and that's why they did it. So that supposedly someone, they don't know who, planted these herbs and, started this whole demon possession thing. But the local witch doctor came, figured it out, and, cleansed the area and solve the problem. So
what were the herbs like causing them to be wacky?
I suppose it just said that they discovered that some traditional herbs had been planted in the school. So I suppose it was probably a combination, some kind of spell or something is what they're thinking.
So it was a spell.
I would think so. I would think using the herbs like that, because they're claiming that the person responsible had the intention of extorting money from the school to calm the situation for them.
Wow. So they were using the little bags and stuff. They actually had them hidden. That's crazy.
And so they said, very
supernatural.
Fortunately, the demons from the pupils were able to be cast out, and that they resumed with their normal lessons. And I suppose the parents calmed down. The whole part of the story that I thought was so great was that the police chief was so, you really need to,
nothing to see here, move along.
Well, you need to discuss a solution and do this calmly and rationally.
Let's get a local one.
Yeah, don't use that Kenyan witch doctor. Right. Let's get a local witch doctor to come in. But it was taken care of in, just such a strange situation. Things like that are just so strange that people still really have that.
Well, I mean, it was real. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had mojo stuff.
Obviously.
Yeah, it was real, man.
Mm-hmm. So I'll link to that.
You can't find a bunch of hex bags around a place and not think. You know what I mean?
No, I know. Obviously, somebody was doing something. Somebody that had something.
It was great that the witch doctor knew that and seen that.
Yeah, I wonder if they ever found out who did it.
I don't know,
because it seems like they found out pretty quickly that someone did it.
Maybe it was that dude that was locked up.
Maybe it was the local witch doctor that they called in to take care of it.
Yeah, but that would have been a far stretch. He would have had to think, well, they wouldn't be successful getting the other witch doctor unless the cop was in on it too.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? It could be a very detailed plot.
It could. I could only hope. I like detailed plots. I hate boring plots.
All right. Well, I have a few more stories here for us. And this one, I thought this one was just an interesting read. So I came across this one story, and it was just one of those cute stories that we talk about where there's a house up for rent, and a realtor gets funny, and they put up a sign that says "not haunted,"
right?
Under the house. And so at this particular story, was in a newspaper called the Daily Progress, and this is actually in Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia. So it's very close. And there was this article that this woman wrote about this rental of a 1905 house, and the realtor that's going to rent it out for the woman that owns it put that sign on it, and just funny enough put "not haunted" at the bottom.
Right.
So the house was owned by a woman named Elizabeth Farrell, and this woman is actually, what she does for a living is she clears houses of spirits. Farrell is actually someone that does elemental energy clearing, and she does like feng shui and space clearing, and it's like a big deal in places like New York and stuff like that. People want to have their spaces cleared before they move in.
I wish there was one here.
And so honestly, they were talking to her, and she says she's done as many as 300 in her area, just in Charlottesville. And it's something that people like to have done. And it was funny because this real estate agent that was renting her house for her didn't know that she did that sort of thing, and he put the "not haunted" sign under there. So I thought it was a really funny kind of coincidence. And this paper, the Daily Progress, they had her write a piece for their paper that actually came out on the same day as this article about the rental house, with the irony. And so she wrote this one called 18 Things That Can Be Mistaken for Ghosts. So I saw this article. I thought, I don't know if that's going to be something I agree with, because I expected it to be a very skeptical article. But because she does all this energy work, she basically wrote this list of things that you could mistake for a ghost that aren't really ghosts, but they may still be supernatural.
Right.
So it's a really interesting read. I thought I'd run through a few of these and see
absolutely.
See if you agree with some of her list. Some of her list. All right. So here are 18 things that she says can be mistaken for ghosts. And I will link to this because she goes in depth on a lot of these things. I'm just going to kind of run through them really quick. So of course, there's the physical causes of things that you hear in your house, like living things you don't see, like an animal in the attic, or, if you're having trouble with your pipes.
Gas.
She does claim that layout problems with your space, because she does the feng shui and stuff like that, that maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Obese cats.
And she points out electromagnetic frequency, EMP.
Right.
Because we know, EMF, because we know that does cause you to have weird feelings.
Yes,
that's something
absolutely.
So I agree with all those things. Those things are things you could hear, you could mistake for
or feel.
A haunting.
Yeah.
Right. So then her next section is about predecessor energy, what she calls a karmic residue, where you experience deja vu, where you're in a situation that closely resembles a past life situation, and you have unresolved issues from a past life, and that could cause you to feel weird or like there's something, a presence or something. So I agree with that also. And something else she calls echoes through time, where she feels like sometimes we talk about it, how the veil's very thin, and maybe you're observing another place or another time, or you feel like you're in another kind of time. So those are also things that are not ghosts, but could make you feel like, your house is
sometimes I
haunted.
believe that we're the ghost.
Yes, to other people.
You walk in a house that's from 1830s. They're in their time still.
Right.
And they're hearing you in this time. It's very timey-wimey, but
it is.
I think it all connects.
Well, didn't we saw one of the ghost hunters, wasn't it? Where they
we talked
got
about it in
the
depth.
EVP,
Yeah, from the princess.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the next on the list she calls a visitation, which it's elemental energy. This is her section. And her visitation would be from like a guardian angel or a guide, or she says an ancestor from one of the elements is what she's calling it. This is where it's a little thing, because I feel like a spirit guide it's not a ghost, I guess.
Right.
So I guess she's not associating spirits and ghosts as the same kind of thing.
Right. Well,
so
I'll agree with spirit guide not being a ghost.
So that's just another one. And then she says extraterrestrials. Still not a ghost. Could be alien.
Yeah, it could be demonic. We've talked about that many times.
Yes.
And people jump to demons, and a lot of times it seems like it's the same thing as abductions.
Now, here's a few that I thought were really interesting that people don't always think about off the top of their head, where you might think it's a ghost or a haunting. But one of these is psychic projections, where people are actually psychically projecting feelings or whatever, and other people not knowing what that is could feel like that's a presence. So that's definitely one. Bilocation, where she says some people, spiritually evolved people, can actually, I guess, project their image, sort of be in, out of body kind of thing. And another one she claims is object projections, where people can actually make things move, like telekinesis kind of thing, which is a real thing.
Yeah, especially if you didn't know you could do it.
Right. And it's very rare if you didn't know somebody else could do it and you saw something move. Probably not the most common, but again, not a ghost.
Yeah.
Not a ghost. So then there's the next one on the list is something she calls crisis apparitions. And this is when a loved one thinks of their beloved during times of great stress or energy, and they don't necessarily mean like they appear to their loved ones. Right. Like they appear to like if you're in a stressful situation, you're thinking about your loved one, you appear to them. You're not necessarily dead, but it's just what she calls a crisis apparition because of all the energy and the stress. Then she's got telepathic messages, which can come from the living or the dead, but it's just a message, not a ghost. It's just you're getting it in your head. Poltergeist activity, not necessarily ghost. We've documented on occasions can be teenage girls.
Yes.
That's a big theory there. So she's got one on here called psychological ghost phenomenon. What she says this is when a person misses a loved one so much they believe they've been visited, but they really haven't. That one would be kind of hard to tell.
That one I've got a hard. I mean, it's like in like in Harry Potter when he's like, "Is this in my head, Professor?" Of course. I mean, but what does it matter, right? And
see, that one I had a little bit of hard time with, like you, because
okay, look, I know people. One of the dearest women that I've ever met. She works for me, and she works in one of my stores, and she's very, very heavy duty Christian. I don't believe in anything paranormal except
right.
I lost my husband, and he appeared to me right afterwards, and then I did a reading on her and told her she was from a lot of gypsies, and she was, and so I instantly became the devil, I believe.
I think so. Yes, probably.
That was years ago. I would never bring that up now, but she saw her husband. I mean, there's no projection to that because she didn't believe in it. Right.
And then she saw it. I agree with that. This one I have a little trouble with because how would you know if it was really a ghost or it was, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't even want to even assume.
Right. So there's a few more on here. There's one she calls vortex energy, which is places on land where energy moves and shifts. Some people are more aware of that than others, and it causes them to feel like maybe the place is haunted when it's really just an energy shift.
Goes back to EMF.
Exactly. So the last two on this list have to do with what she calls residual energy. So I know that we talk about residual hauntings a lot. She's not really saying that there's a ghost that's just residual energy. It's just a feeling.
I believe that the walls can be stained.
Yes, I think that's what she means on this. Like, one is a personality fragment where maybe the space just feels kind of like the person that was living there. It's more of a feeling and energy.
It's heavy, brother. It's one of those things that if there's been a murder in a room or a rape in a room or something like that, God forbid, there's a heaviness there. There's a stain. You don't have to know if it happened or not.
Right.
You just feel heavy in certain rooms. We've been in haunted locations and walk in room after room after room. That's fine. We walk in one room and it's just like 100,000 pounds. And
you can just feel it sometimes.
It soaks in the walls. I believe that absolutely that, you got these elements like wood, right? That are just in stone and all this. I don't know. You've got things here to soak it up. And I don't know. I think we do psychically imprint. And I will admit that.
Yes.
My problem is when people see an apparition and think that that's because of something. I'm not saying again that that's not it because we don't know, but it seems to me I've never really had a spirit that I couldn't interact with.
Right. Well, and the last one on her list is what she calls energy tape loops, which is that. And she did put it last on the list, which makes me feel like she doesn't think that that's as common. But she just claims these are ones where you see something exactly the same at a certain time of year or that sort of thing.
People call it the most common, and the
Right.
residual. That's the
But
thing
I
that
just
bothers
don't
me.
think they're the most common because, you just don't come across that.
If it's the most
that
common, I'm a
often.
very lucky ghost hunter.
Well, one thing, I'm definitely going to link to this. One thing I thought was really interesting about this article is something she said toward the end about people that want to have their house cleared. She said, one of the most common reasons that people's houses seem haunted is because they think they're haunted.
Right,
Like the
right.
person putting the energy in the house is you. You're putting that
You're
energy
opening
in
the
your
doorway
house.
yourself.
Exactly. And she's like, if you don't want to live in a haunted house, stop talking about living in a haunted house. Like,
Right.
don't put that thought out there. And that's very common too, that you can curse your own house.
Well, I mean, unless you're us, and then you see black shadows behind you.
Right,
and
right.
then we see the little thing running through, and we know what that is.
Well, that's different.
It's just a traveler.
Well, we don't go into a new house thinking that it's haunted already.
Stacey
We
had to-
actually go in hoping it's not.
Stacey had the 3 scratches down her spine a few days ago, and yeah, so we deal with it quite a bit. Yeah.
So pretty interesting read. Definitely will link to that, and you can check out. She goes into more detail about her list, but I thought it was really interesting because there are a lot of things that aren't necessarily ghosts, but could be considered, haunted house.
Oh, I loved it.
Yes. All right, so let's move on to a ghost story.
Ooh.
And this is a story that was shared on the Today Show by Jenna Bush Hager.
Ah.
And it's from the time when she lived in the White House.
Oh,
Her dad was
wow.
president. And I know that you
My
love
favorite
the White
place.
House.
Yes. Oh my God.
So they were talking on the Today Show about, it's the Halloween season. So obviously they brought a thing about ghosts, and they were actually really, positive about, yes, I think ghosts exist and that sort of thing. And so she mentioned that when she was living in the White House at the time, her and her sister, Barbara, they shared a bedroom. And she said that one night they were sleeping in there and that her phone rang and it woke them up. And so she was going to answer it. And all of a sudden they heard like 1920s piano music coming out of the fireplace in their room. And they were both awake. They're absolutely awake. She said she actually jumped over in Barbara's bed and they had no explanation for it. And so they thought maybe it was just a one-time thing, but the next week they heard the same thing, but it was opera music coming out of the
Wow.
fireplace. And so she was talking about how she was talking to this one man that worked at the White House. She thinks he still works there. His name was Buddy. And she was like, look, Buddy, you wouldn't believe what we heard last night. And he said, oh, Jenna, you wouldn't believe what I've heard, because he's worked there for a very long time. And, everybody talks about how haunted
Yes.
the White House must
Oh my
absolutely
God.
be.
Listen to me. Mm-hmm. Okay, listen. Mm-hmm. I have talked about it for years. Everybody's always like, what's your favorite place? Where would you like to investigate if you knew? And people have asked us that on interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you could investigate anywhere, where would you want to investigate? The White House.
The White House, absolutely.
I just want to investigate the White House.
You think Donald Trump would let us investigate part of
I
the
don't
White
know.
House?
I don't care if it's 3 rooms or 4 rooms.
One room.
One room. I want to investigate that place. And I mean, really, seriously, Abe Lincoln and just so much stuff is there.
Oh, it would be awesome. It would be
There's so many stories. I have books on it. Just from what they've seen and heard.
Yeah, because they've seen all sorts of past presidents and stuff. But I love the story because it's cool of her to share that particular story, and I know how much you love the White House, the haunted White House.
Absolutely.
All right, so I have a couple more stories here. And this first one is about Zach Baggins.
Okay.
And his haunted museum. He's always getting really weird stuff for his haunted museum.
Right.
And we just talked recently about the Dybbuk box, and
Yes.
Post Malone and all that. So this is a story about how he now owns Charles Manson's bone fragments.
Oh my God.
Now, he actually already acquired some of Charles Manson's paintings. Those are things that he acquired himself. One contains a bit of his ashes, and the other one was one that Manson painted himself in prison.
Right.
And he had already acquired those. But since then, he also owns the hospital gown that Manson died in, complete with the stains, the toe tag from his deceased body, and the sheet that was draped over his body after his passing. Now, supposedly those latest objects were actually given to him by Jason Freeman, who was Charles Manson's grandson. And he donated them to Baggins Museum because he said they brought him a lot of discomfort, and it seemed like they caused some paranormal activity in his home, and he just wanted rid of them.
Wow.
And he apparently got the bone fragments by scraping out the incinerator where he was cremated. I guess he thought at the time that was a good idea, but then he decided that he really didn't want them. I think the clincher was one day someone called him from his house, but nobody was there.
Yeah.
But he got a phone call from his house, and so then he was like, I just don't want these things in my house anymore. So now they have found a home at the Haunted Museum that Zach Baggins owns.
Wow.
So I think like he has a weird fascination with Charles Manson anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's
Like,
crazy.
Yeah.
I know that he's doing the Halloween special and it's supposed to be, doing the Dybbuk box and stuff again and all that stuff.
Yes. So he definitely has a lot of very weird and macabre items.
Yeah.
So, all right. So last story. This one's just very strange. This is a very recent story. This is about a student in Davis, California that has been accused of handing out cookies at school made with his grandparents' ashes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Isn't that awful? So it's a high school, Da Vinci High School in Davis, California, and several students ate the cookies.
Oh my God.
And now I will say that the cookies haven't technically been tested yet. This is just coming from student testimony where he's being accused of handing these cookies out, and kids know that stuff. Supposedly when he made them, they included his grandparents' ashes. They don't really know what to do about it. Like, even the police chief's like, we've never seen this before, there's nothing to kind of go on. This could be psychologically harmful to these students who,
oh my God,
even if they don't get sick, it could be a psychological thing, and so they don't. It's so unconventional, they feel like they have to research it more to figure out how to handle this situation.
I mean, that's so out there, man.
It is. And the school won't comment on it because it's confidential student situation.
So why would when I was a student, I would not eat a cookie you gave me. I mean,
no, I wouldn't. No,
there's no way.
But if it was a friend of yours,
no,
I guess they wouldn't give you a cookie with ashes.
How many times have you seen people hand me something?
No, I know you don't eat things like that.
Even gifts at work and stuff, right? What do I do with them? I bring them home and give them to the dog. And I'm not gonna do it. And I don't care if people know it or think I'm rude. There's certain things I'm not gonna do. If you're sneezing in your hand, I'm not gonna shake it.
Right.
Okay. If you give me a piece of food that you've baked at your house,
right, you
can just keep it. I'm not going to eat it. I just can't trust.
I mean, we're talking about a generation of kids that ate Tide Pods. So,
if he baked their ashes into the cookies,
right,
what do you think the end game was?
I mean, I don't know. Is it just something where, because, we do things sometimes that are just for our own personal enjoyment. Other people don't know.
Yeah. But we don't put ashes in cookies.
No, we're not horrible people. But I'm just saying, maybe it was something for his own enjoyment. Maybe it was something that he knew and nobody else knew, and he just wanted to see if people could tell.
Then how did people find out?
I guess apparently somebody else knew. Kids aren't good at keeping secrets. So I don't know. I'm going to keep up with the story because, like I said, the cookies hadn't been tested yet. I'm really curious to see how they handle this situation.
It sounds like something off Riverdale.
It really does.
Like, I can see Cherry Blossom.
Yes, she would be the one.
She
would be the one.
Like, my daddy's in that. Like, I can just see it. It's very Riverdale. Well, thank you for ending on such a disgusting note.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right. Well, that was another round of deliciously cookie goodness.
I made you some cookies, by the way, honey.
Oh,
they're
great.
Downstairs. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Too bad I'm on a no carb diet.
They're no carb cookies.
Yeah. I wish those existed. So, yeah, anyway, really great show. A lot of cool news, lots of good laughs. Appreciate you, everybody, tuning in and checking us out and sharing the show, liking the Facebook page, following the Twitter, joining the Instagram, and giving on Patreon. So much. We appreciate it so much. We're actually about to upgrade our microphones, and we're trying to get more in that, hello, I'm in a studio, and this is my warm voice. We're trying to upgrade the microphones, the board, and the computer.
That one's going to take a little longer.
Yeah, so that's everything goes to a good cause, kids. Everything goes to a good cause. And knowing us, we get that cause, we may just cut it all off. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like the Patreon. I just really want us to have the best quality sound possible for everything that we do. But for everybody, love you. This is our hot season. This is the October Halloweeny season. So we will see you again next week. Do not fret. It'll be 4 or 5 days from now, and you'll have another show. So enjoy it, share it, love it. For my lovely birthday girl, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out ParanormalSideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a Sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and to help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacey, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.